probably the ultimate Nephilim. He is Homo Satanas. He is literally Satan in human skin. This is why we need to talk about it. This is why. That individual helped bring 2 to 4 billion deaths and bring the globe to almost an extinction-level event. We're talking extinction-level events here in the end of days. Jesus said they're unprecedented, so you and I have got to look at biblical prophecy to see future history, Dr. Joe. We've got to see that this is beyond anything that's ever happened in human history. And it involves, I believe, a return of the hybrid, and that Antichrist himself is bloodlined, and that the Antichrist is a fallen cherub to direct chosen satanic woman, demonized woman, to create their goal, a direct counterfeit to the incarnation. So who are we going to sit back as Christians and let the transhumanists talk about their connection to the gods with the Russian cosmists leading them to create immortality? Are we going to sit back to the occultists and the New Agers and the Gnostics and all the rest of everybody else perverting the version of Nephilim being radically evil, and yet they're trying to recreate it? Do we sit back and let the rest of them tell the world what this is and bring a convoluted view? Christians have to stand and tell the biblical view, past, present, and what's to come, in a bold way in the context then of preaching the gospel. And thank God for Steve. Thank God that he stood out there, he took the punches all along the way to bring it out, and now many others have written more books on Nephilim ever in history in this last 10 years. And there's a reason. The dark side's wanting it.
The dark side is wanting it. Well, okay, the dark side is going. I mean, that's the agenda of the dark side, not the exposure thereof. And if you can clarify what you just said there, you kind of lost me there.
I believe that the demonic realm guided the Nazi development. I believe the political philosophical view of the Nazi was literally charged political ideology. It was demonic teaching downloaded that became political ideology, what ran the whole thing. And part of that involved, hey, we got to create a master race. We got to have rituals in Babelsberg Castle. We got to Willigot the sorcerer's got to do rituals. We got to go and find any Germans that can prove they had Aryan descent, and because in their view the Aryan was the Helena Blavatsky's version of the God-men, the ancient Nephilim. So the entire war, World War II, involved a vision. Part of the reason for the war was to create. The vision was for them to develop tens of thousands upon thousands of hybrid God-men, Uberman soldiers that could be the ones to help bring about and enforce a 1,000-year Reich, counterfeit to the coming millennium, of course. That's what it was all about. So the history is charged with the redevelopment of Nephilim. Lebensborn was all about the recreation of Nephilim. Jack Parsons, all the rest of them. So what I'm saying is, I believe the dark side has an agenda to create altered humans. That's the transhumanist view. And I was at the actual 2045 meeting in New York with Ray Kurzweil and Dmitry Itzkov and the Russian cosmists as they combined the highest levels of science with ancient great white brotherhood gods, declaring the goal for the transhumanists are to recreate the God-men, half human, half gods. That was declared on the stage in New York at Lincoln Plaza. I sat in the 10 feet away from these guys as the top geneticists, top scientists, top transhumanists described their view of creating the immortals. When the cosmists and gurus came on stage and they showed slides of the ancient gods, which are the demons, Ephesians 6, that they're declaring that they're going to lead the scientists to bring the hybrids again. They want. So what I'm saying in that statement is, I believe that's the dark side's agenda, to recreate altered and hybrid beings in the development of the satanic order that's to come.
Okay.
I'll give one example biblically, prophetically. Revelation 6, white horse, red horse, black horse, pale green horse. Well, in the pale green horse, you have 1/4 of mankind dead. You have billions probably dead. And God describes what is the cause behind all these people dying. Number one, the biblical Greek word for war, actual war, then pestilence, then famine. And then it says, and the beasts of the earth in the English. It's the Greek therion. So helping to kill hundreds of millions in a short period of time are therion. In biblical context, Scripture interprets Scripture. In the biblical context, I believe we're talking about hybrids or very altered beings that are going to be used in the slaughter of hundreds of millions. Therion. It's not going to be hamsters and giraffes gone wild killing hundreds of millions. It's going to be beasts, therion, most likely hybrid beings that are going to be involved in that. It's my opinion.
All right. Wow. When you mentioned the German, the Nazis, the agenda there, the pink swastika of the book. Earlier, you were talking about the homosexual agenda, the perversion that of the homosexuals. What's the connection, if any, between the perverse homosexual aspect of the Nazis, well known now, well documented, but not discussed very much, and
right.
I mean, where does that fit into what you just described?
Well, I believe it's documented too that Hitler was like, he was pumping homosexuality for all the other nations. He knew it corrupted the nation. I believe that the inner circle was sexually corrupt because, again, when you embrace demonic presence, part of the addiction, part of the hold, part of all ritualism that comes into it, and I don't care if that's voodoo, Santeria, you can talk about all of them, specifically SRA, all worldwide, sexual ritual is part of it because the perversion sexually helps bring the demonic, it helps transfer the demonic, helps people to receive the demonic. It's just part of the whole. And so I believe that there was, behind the scenes, major sexual perversion and use within the Nazi system. And I believe that, again, sexual corruption is part of the satanic plan. Just as we read in 2 Thessalonians 2 about pseudo, the Greek word pseudo there, counterfeit, sign, wonder, or those three things that Jesus did are going to be counterfeited on a global scale by Satan's operating presence. But that it doesn't stop there. It says, and every sort or every kind of evil or wickedness. That word has the moral component of sexual addiction. So Satan's operating strategic design is to bring sexual decadent corruption that opens the door to satanic influence, if not eventually attachment or possession. We have, not in all cases, but in a few, I can tell you one case when a police officer stood right next to me. We commanded a demon that manifested in a highly sexually permissive, demonized 19-year-old man. The demon came forward, the hideous voice. It was a sexually oriented, dirty, filthy, unclean spirit that led him into that. And where did it come from? He went to an underground rave where an older man, basically forced him into a sexual encounter and transferred demons from the man into the other boy. And that demon, when we dealt with him, of course, by the authority of Jesus, had to come up, and we had to, command it out off of him. Because this guy was he was after everybody. So there is within sexual decadence, homosexuality, sexual hedonism, we even talk about the necromantic, but there's a demonic drive because it brings addiction, it brings open doors for the enemy, and they can come in and they can transfer and they can be a part. So I've read the Pink Swastika some time ago, and I believe that was dirtying the human construct.
Gotcha.
And opening the door for demonic presence. Sexual perversion will do it.
Indeed.
With that point, Russ, let's take a quick break as we're at the top of the hour.
Already.
And we're going to come back with our third and final hour. I got some questions. We have some listener questions, and there's some pretty relevant and interesting ones. So take a quick break.
Before the break, I just want to say, Russ, thank you so much. Look, we know how busy you are. We know what you've been through over the last couple of weeks. I just want to say thank you so very much for making us your first interview in the midst of all the chaos, commotion, and problems that you're encountering and have encountered. Thank you just so much, and thank your wife as well and your family for allowing you to spend this much time with us. It's really appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Sure.
All right, folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Wednesday, June 17th, 2015. Our guest is Mr. Russ Dizdar. Grab his book, The Black Awakening. It is a fantastic read, so different from many of the other books pertaining to prophecy, as Russ has, in his experience dealing and delivering SRA victims, has come across a plot of the darkest and...
You just have to read the book.
You have to read the book. His website, shatterthedarkness.net. Then went to our third and final hour on this Wednesday edition with our guest, Mr. Russ Dizdar. His website, shatterthedarkness.net. This show has just been flying by. Russ got a few questions from the audience, and the first one is coming from me and from the audience, as many of the guests we've had on in the recent past. This question has come up, and you dealing with the SRA and the spiritual wickedness, CERN. We see CERN has been ramping up their hydrogen collider. They're talking about, bringing in interdimensional beings, or trying to bring in interdimensional beings. They have their statue of Shiva in front of CERN.
That's a good idea, by the way. Right.
What is your take on CERN? What do you really think they're trying to accomplish, and do you believe they can accomplish their mission?
Well, good. We did a couple of mentions on this. I think 2 or 3 broadcasts on it. I think Steve and I did one thing on the Abyss I brought up. The interesting thing is, the reason Revelation chapter 9 is there is because God selected to give us insight that in the future the king of the abyss is going to come, and he's going to get the keys. In biblical sense, the rights. He'll have he'll find out the rights, the way in which this gateway is going to be open. Now, when the gateway is open, look at the result, how huge it is. I believe it's dimensional. I believe a dimensional gateway is going to open, and then on a visible scale, if you read the biblical Greek, they come down upon the earth and begin to, and of course God had to limit their, unless they would annihilate everything. It would be, that opening of the abyss would be an extinction level event, barring that God has limited what they could do. Now, I say that to say this: what will open that? I believe when I went back on that whole series I did on CERN, with the Atlas and, the God particle, and their whole belief that they can go beyond the point of the initial creation, grab what's behind that. The idea is grab the finger of God, pull it into the Atlas part of the CERN thing, and kind of like cut off the tip, get a piece of God in a sense, and dissect it. I believe it's far beyond that. I believe, just as I believe demonic dark powers guided the Germans in weaponry, let alone, the whole design, I believe there's dark powers guiding this development of technology. This was prophesied demonically in a book called The Externalization of the Hierarchy by Alice Bailey in 1937. The demon that entered into her in the actual demonic writings of that particular book described an evolutionary development of them guiding scientists to the point that they, with the demons,